Yes, people, welcome back to the Big Game Theory. And on today's episode, we have Manchester United versus City. Now, as we know, the Big Game Theory is the show where we bring you the biggest game for the week. It could be the Champions League, could be La Liga, Serie A, Europa League, EPL. No matter where the game is, we find it and we bring you a post-match analysis by the managers. We also bring you a few talking topics about the whole game. So this is what we're doing about Manchester United versus Man City. So let's jump into it right away with me. Now, a lot of people have been after Ruben Amorim to change the way he's playing, and why is he not changing his system? And for me personally, I don't think the system is the problem. I've said many times, a 3 in the back allows you to play 3 in the back, 4 in the back, or 5 in the back. There are many ways that formation can evolve based on the time of the game, in the defensive transition of the game, or how you want to set up to defend the team in a low block, or are you high pressing the team? You can press them with 3 in the back, you can press them with 4, you can press them with a 4 in the middle, you can press them sometimes with a 5, with a 2. So there's many ways in which you can press, and there's many ways in which this formation allows you to be a bit more not so rigid in the way you're playing. Now, a lot of teams in the EPL build up in a back three. Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham, Man City. So a lot of these teams is not, they just say 4-3-3 on the sheet, but usually formation is important for the team sheet, and also just sometimes when the team sets up when they start. But as we see now, teams don't even set up anymore as much in their formation. They set up to counteract how the team is going to kick off the ball. Some teams kick it down into the corners, like what we see a lot of teams doing now in the EPL, actually giving up possession on their first play to press teams. So there's a lot of things going on. So when people talk about Ruben Amorim's system, I just don't think it's massively a problem. The problem is sometimes the personnel don't understand how to play it, and maybe that is the argument to be had, that maybe he doesn't have the personnel to play in his formation. But I also don't think that isn't really the issue. What I think the issue is the team isn't just not functioning the way it should. Now, there could be many factors to that. Is it the messages from the manager not getting across to them? Is it the message from the staff not getting across to them? Or does the players not believe in the manager's way of playing? Or are the players not good enough to play that way? So there are many questions that we can answer within that whole statement we just made. But personally, I also just think that some of the players, they're struggling for fitness. They're trying to build into the team. Manchester United was not that bad. And for us to sit down and just say that it was actually a 3-0 game. Okay, yes, City missed an open goal through Haaland, but United had good chances too. I mean, Mbeumo's best chance from Donnarumma was the best save, which is a volley. But then they had so many half chances. A lot of touches in the box. Dogu had maybe at least 12 touches out of United's 23 in the box. 6 of which were crosses, and none actually went to any of his teammates. So there's a lot of things within that we shouldn't be blaming Amorim for. Now, reporters, of course, is going to ask him about Bruno Fernandes, and they're also going to ask him about the situation where why he's playing Bruno out of position, and this is what he had to say.
Best player out of his best position, and he looks compromised. Is that not just adding to the conundrum and the difficulties and overcomplicating the situation?
Guys, I understand.
First of all, right, who is this reporter to be talking to the man like this? He's asked, okay, fair, genuine question, but don't ask the question in a condescending way. Don't you talk down to me while asking my expertise on why you think I am playing a certain player in a certain position. Who is the manager? Who is the head coach in this situation? You don't see Ruben Amorim asking telling the journalist, hey mate, don't you ask me a question in this way. Ask me the question in another way, because because you're a journalist. You're doing your fucking job. So let the man do his job and let the man answer a question, but don't be condescending about your question, bro. Like, come on, do better.
How football it is, and the results will dictate all the narratives. Against Arsenal, who is playing against Arsenal? You think we play well? We think we were the better team? You think Odegaard, Rice, and I think Zubimendi are three top midfielders? We play with three. We play with two. One was Casemiro, the other was Bruno. Sometimes it's the dynamic of the team. Sometimes it's an opportunity that you score. I see it that way. I know that is really hard for people. And the fans don't want to hear me saying these things. And I know that they are not going to listen nothing and going to be upset. With that, I cannot do nothing. I'm trying to be rational and I don't lie to myself. So I see the record, I understand the frustration of everybody, and I understand any decision that came with that.
Now, basically, the man just tell them, this is the way I see football. And how can you blame him for defending the way he plays? Now, for me, I think he can tweak the system a bit. When people are talking about, oh, Amad Diallo isn't a right wing back, or these stupid statements they make, or Bruno can't play in central midfield, or these are just poor journalist discussions. Bruno can play as a central midfielder. First of all, let me just put this out there to a lot of people. Why are people asking, fans especially, asking for Bruno Fernandes to be sold for 100 million when you're going to have to replace him for 100 million? Where's the logic? So you're already lacking one midfielder, but you're trying to replace that midfielder with another type of midfielder, yet you haven't replaced Bruno Fernandes. Kobe Mainoo, yes, he's a Bruno Fernandes replacement, but he doesn't have the passing range. He doesn't create as many chances. Even when Mainoo plays, it's not like he comes onto the pitch and he comes and creates loads of chances. You're like, all right, this guy is like the next creative machine. So you're going to bring in a defensive midfielder, say a Baleba, right? Or Elliot Anderson, whatever you want, Adam Wharton. Yet you're still lacking a player with the passing range of a Bruno Fernandes, with the chance creation of a Bruno Fernandes. So what are you really trying to get out of selling Bruno Fernandes? You're already not scoring as many goals. He's your top goal scorer. He creates the most chances. He has the most assists. Yet the media is asking for the manager and the club to sell their best player. Why does Manchester United always have to sell their best player when other clubs not selling their best player? And don't tell me clubs did Coutinho or clubs did things for Kylian Mbappe. Like, I don't want to hear that shitty, weak analysis. Yeah? Coutinho is not better than Mohamed Salah. And can we at least agree on that? And at that moment, okay, Coutinho was live, he was good, but they were willing to sell because they had players as good as Coutinho or better. Name me two players at United better than Bruno Fernandes in his position if he plays, or in the midfield. None. So it's not like we're selling him for better or we bringing in greatness. You sell Bruno, you need to bring in two midfielders worth 100 million. Okay, sell Bruno just for Kobe and you bring in a defensive midfielder. If Kobe Mainoo gets injured, who plays then? Who's the substitution? You don't see Real Madrid going around and just selling Modric, Kroos because they brought in Valverde, or they brought in a Tchouaméni, or they brought in a Camavinga, or they brought in a Jude Bellingham. One retired and one just left. You know, like, they just didn't roach these guys out because those guys are younger. And they bought them for 100 million. You know, they didn't bring Jude Bellingham in and just kick out one of their midfielders. He went to play up top. They found a position for him. They didn't kick their midfielders out. They didn't say, oh, get my best players out. How dare you? How dare you ask for the club to sell their best player? Salah ain't leaving. Liverpool tie him down. I don't see Chelsea about to sell Cole Palmer. Man City got rid of Kevin De Bruyne because Kevin De Bruyne was injury prone. And then let's talk about the Kevin De Bruyne situation, because people again will say, oh, bring up a comparison with Kevin De Bruyne and Bruno Fernandes. Let's talk about it. When Kevin De Bruyne was in the league, Bruno Fernandes, since he came, created more chances than him, had more goal involvements than him. Just for a second, think about that. So the best midfielder, so-called, in that era was not even hitting the statistics that Bruno Fernandes was hitting. The only reason people don't talk about Bruno Fernandes in the light of one of the best midfielders in the world or one of the best midfielders to play in the Premier League is because he's at a shit team. But if he was at a good United, winning trophies consistently, which they do, they just haven't been winning major trophies, let's be honest. If United was to win a Premier League, or United was to win a Champions League with a Bruno Fernandes in it, then people would be talking about him like the greatest thing since sliced bread. But the problem is he hasn't. And there's the criticism because he's been a part of a United team that has had good high highs, but also very low lows. And he's been the captain and the pinnacle of that. Now, do we think that Bruno Fernandes' numbers has dropped? A bit, but it's been consistent every year he's been at the club. So why would we sell our most consistent player? He can play every game. He's available every game. And every manager and every salesperson says availability is the key. Availability and technique and skill is the key. Stop asking for Bruno come out the midfield. There are progressive ways in which United can play. There are better ways in which United can play. And Bruno can stay in that same midfield. The midfield isn't the problem. The problem is the centre-backs not jumping in time for the press. And I'm going to show you all, based on a few screenshots on each goal, the problem that Man United have. So let's look at the first goal. I want to show y'all. Look at this graphic right here. Look at Nus Mazurai, yeah? Why is the back line not shifted across? The ball is on the right side of the pitch. Now, if Rodri recycles the ball, say to a Guardiola, and we start to recycle the ball back onto the left side, the team can shift. Why is a Matthias de Ligt marking space, yeah? You have Luke Shaw on an overload. You have Lenny Yoro not picking up Haaland. So now if Lenny Yoro shouts, right, picks up Haaland, News can come across. De Ligt now can either now come across and fill that space. So if Dogu when he collects the ball and turns in this motion, Luke Shaw can step up. Why is Dogu also so wide? Dogu is cheating. Dogu is cheating while Doku is also cheating, and Luke Shaw is in a predicament. Now, do I step? Because Ugarte is about to engage Rodri, but Ugarte is standing up in no man's land. So Ugarte isn't even projecting where he's locking off a certain path to say, okay, if the ball goes into Doku, I can then go on the press because we're letting him back. Or we can squeeze, we can trap. Or is he locking off the pass to Foden? What is he doing? Now, Bruno Fernandes is standing up in the pivot position as the number 6. So he should be reading any danger coming into the box. That's why he's there. He's there, firstly, if Foden turns, Bruno can engage. But also, if Doku comes into that space, he can also engage. But Doku doesn't want to do that. Doku realizes that he can isolate Shaw, and Doku's late. He realizes there's that space, and he turns, and the first thing he does, you realize he drops his shoulder into the space like he's going to go there, and then he goes right against Luke Shaw. So the problem here is Matthias de Ligt just needs to come across. But then people want to blame Bruno Fernandes even after they watch Ugarte, knowing that he's wrong to evade a certain space and doesn't cover. He follows Doku. Doku kicks the ball on him, and this same Foden in this position here scores the goal. Now at that moment, right, people think for a second, if Manuel Ugarte is engaging Rodri, Rodri plays the ball and Doku goes, and then Ugarte follows Doku, right, after he beats Luke Shaw. Don't you think that Bruno Fernandes is going to pick up Rodri running in on the edge of the box? Which means you have three centre-backs. Two centre-backs and the wing-back left. Matthias de Ligt, no man's land. Euro, no man's land, because he's not aware of where Haaland is. And even if he's aware, Haaland is offside, yes. But when Euro, if you looked at the goal, Euro was in no man's land still. Euro and De Ligt was in no man's land still when the goal scored. So we can't blame Bruno Fernandes. Stop trying to blame Bruno Fernandes. This is the stupidness. This is why United is struggling the way they are. Because consistently, they try to blame Bruno Fernandes. Now let's look at the second goal, right? Because but before we look at the second goal, let's hear what Pep had to say about Foden, which makes it even hurt a bit more when then you look at the first goal that scored. So let's hear what Pep had to say about Foden now. Because he literally said this is what Foden literally did in the goal. And Pep literally spoke about it. So this is what he had to say.
Yeah, we miss him so much last season. We need him so much. When he moved behind the strikers in that position, have a sense of goal, sense of turn, sense of the quality to keep the ball. There are players that make... I like the players when they play behind the striker, and most of them pass the ball and they stay and look how good I make the pass. He's a guy who...
Me too. And great coaches always say this to you. Do not admire your pass. Your pass, you keep playing. Keep that focus. Don't admire that pass. And you hear, and I'm a big believer of that too. Pep, I believe that too.
Make a passing, go to penalty spot like an animal, have the score, and when he receives the ball, he's angry because give me the ball, I want it to score. And we cannot forget 2 seasons ago when we won the last game against West Ham here was the most important player of the Premier League, and he was maybe the key player to win that league with the goals, with that continuity.
Talking about that, right? I wanted just to play this so you understood why I showed you the first goal first and then I showed you the video. So you can just see that the manager thought about it and he knew this is what Phil Foden brought, and hence is why he ended up scoring that goal. So I just wanted to realize that it's good to also pay attention to post-match analysis, because a lot of times the coaches discuss small things that will elevate your game and will make you look out for these things in the game as well. So let's look at the third goal that was scored by Man City, because I think the second goal actually. Again, Luke Shaw, poor on the coverage. In this moment, in this goal, this comes from a goal, no, a throw-in actually. Ugarte dives in on the goal, on the throw-in, gets beaten. Doku rolls Lenny Euro, gets inside on the goal side, which is defending one-on-one. You never ever let the player or the goal scorer get goal side of you. As a centre-back, as a defender, you always want to be goal side, which means you always want to make sure your body is in the middle of the player and the goal. Hence, most times they tell you, send the player away from the goal. Send the player away from the goal. Some defenders like you to send the striker inside, but because more and more we have seen that players are playing a lot more on the inversion, as right foot is playing on the left side and left foot is playing on the right side, you don't really want to send them inside anymore. You know, Arjen Robben kind of took that out of the game. The Mo Salahs, the Brian Mbeuemos, you know, these kind of players who cut in, the Heung-min Sons, the Thierry Henrys, these guys who played on opposite wings, who when they cut inside are very dangerous. They kind of have forced you to send them down the line. Now, with this now, Luke Shaw is poor on the cover. Lenny Euro makes him get in front of him, poor on the cover. Luke Shaw isn't coming across. to deal with that situation. And also now, I'm just, look at Altay Bayern there. Now, again, this is why sometimes people have to be harsh with Ruben Amorim. Because you're looking at Altay Bayern there. Technically, Manchester United sell their best goalkeeper, loan him out, and kept 2 scraps. Based on what we've seen. You know, when you're looking at this situation, is Altay Bayern there going to fly out? Is Altay Bayern there going to stop him from taking a shot? He just comes and stand up in no man's land and forces himself to get dinked. And let's not forget, he got dinked. Not slapped in the chest, not the ball to his leg. He gets dinked. Dinked, people. He's either flying out and cause ruction or you're staying in your goal. Why are you getting dinked from an angle across your goal? And he gets dinked at his near post. And these are the guys that are in the goal at Manchester United. And then y'all wonder why we conceding goals. But even that first goal as well. Phil Foden heads the ball with no pace into the corner of the goal. When we, like, don't blame Bruno Fernandes. Look at the stupidness again. Luke Shaw, poor. Look at all these guys we have while Haaland running in behind on the cover. Why is Luke Shaw? You have one man to cover, bro. One man. The play is building up. Your other centre-backs getting rolled. They're watching this guy running in behind him. Just follow the guy. Follow him. Why are you trying to think that he's going to run offside? You can't be playing offside in your fucking 6-yard box. Come on, Luke Shaw. Come on, man. You're a professional. And then now when we're looking at the third goal again, it's similar mistakes. Look, again, now we're just getting to see this image. I was actually trying to find that image where you see Ugarte had the ball, right? Dogu was wide open on the left side. Ugarte looks at Dogu, stops the ball, passes a bubble pass to Luke Shaw, who then has to play a bubble pass to Harry Maguire because that's why the press initiates now. It's a shit pass by Ugarte to Luke Shaw when Ugarte had Dogu open in space. He could have just played the ball to the gap, but that guy does not trust himself to make a 40-yard pass or a 30-yard pass or a 20-yard pass for no one. If it's not 5 yards or it's not 10 yards, Manuel Ugarte can't fucking pass the ball. And it's frustrating because sometimes you're looking at this and you're like, bro, is this really what's going on right now? Is this really what you're doing in this football game? Why are you always playing the safest pass? That is not I've heard of as a midfielder. Sometimes you have to take risks. Sometimes you have to split the lines. The guy does neither or. Come on, man. It's frustrating. Sometimes you think about it and you're just like, how is this guy still playing at the highest level? He has a 20-yard pass, controls the ball, looks at the wing back and stops it. Then plays a bubble pass to Luke Shaw, 7 yards away. Then Luke Shaw has to deal with that, jockey his shoulder, plays a bad pass to Maguire. Then Maguire is pressured on his left foot, last man, so you know he has to take a touch to try to solve that situation and plays a bad pass. Luke Shaw doesn't even, after Luke Shaw plays that pass, even look at this shape. Luke Shaw doesn't even go wide to create space for the bad pass that he played. Ugarte doesn't even break through to say, okay, let me give Maguire an option. How is Maguire there losing the ball? Which means what? He had to step in to win a bad pass to get out of the situation. So no one even moved for Maguire. And then you wonder why we're going 3-0 down. And then you wonder why people have to talk about the manager and his system and all this stupidness. But at the end of the day, it's not the manager alone. Yes, he has a big part to play. He's the manager. And then, then he brings on Kobbie Mainoo. Kobbie Mainoo is a good footballer. Kobbie Mainoo needs to wait his turn. Kobbie Mainoo has a chance now. United isn't winning games to work Casemiro out. People think that the manager is just saying, oh, he's competing with Bruno because he's a technical prototype and he progresses the ball. But if he works hard, defends better, that's what the manager's trying to teach him. But your all minds are so slow. And then you listen to ex-professionals like Wayne Rooney, and you listen to ex-professionals like Paul Scholes talking about Ruben Amorim, saying the system isn't working, saying this and that. Rooney, Scholes, for a second, think about it logically. Take your punditry, algorithm, that kind of mentality off. Take off that cap, that media cap, and let's put on the footballer cap for a second. The coach's cap for a second. The Ferguson cap for a second, yeah? If Kobe Mainoo knows, right, that Bruno Fernandes is going to play every game for Manchester United, what are Kobe Mainoo's flaws then? Defensively, he struggles. Need to work faster. Need to play faster. Need to try to not evade the middle of the pitch a bit more. If these are the messages from the manager to Kobe Mainoo, what is he saying? Kobe, you can compliment Bruno Fernandes. I want you to get better at these things so you can play next to Bruno Fernandes. Because what does Bruno need next to him? Someone that can control the game, someone that doesn't evade the middle of the pitch, someone that can progress the ball and dribble the ball, and someone that can defend. The only thing that Ugarte and Casemiro have over Mainoo is that they're a bit more rugged. So if Mainoo adds that to his game, stop looking at it at the manager saying that he just has to play behind Bruno Fernandes. Come on, lads. You guys are a lot smarter than this. You guys are top professionals. Some of the best to ever play the game. So when y'all analyze the game like that, lads. Analyze it from all aspects, no? Why are we only analyzing it just based to force Amorim hand? And I know, I am harsh on Amorim because I've said it many times. He gets sometimes too caught up emotionally in the game. And nothing is wrong with the emotion of the game. I've said this and I've said this in many groups and I'm saying this again to you guys. You can be caught up, you can bring emotion to the game. You can have emotion for the game, but as a coach, you can't be emotionally caught up in the game. Because if your decisions are being made on emotion, then you're not actually in the game. You're not actually playing the football game. And yes, you have managers that do all kind of crazy shit on the sideline. Of course, that's emotion, that's passion. But when it's time for Pep, when it's time for Jose, when it's time for Klopp, when it's time for Ancelotti, Zidane, these guys, Allegri, lots of, Inzaghi, all these managers to make decisions. Look at these managers. They make them as emotional as they are, the Antonio Contes. They make these decisions calmly. They make them and they make top decisions to make changes. A lot of times you can see Amorim start to get a bit too caught up in the game emotionally. And you see Arteta struggle with that a bit sometimes. Diego Simeone struggles with that a bit sometimes. And that is fine. That is fine. There's nothing wrong as young managers, because the three of them are young managers. Diego Simeone, who has a bit more experience, but still a bit young for a manager. And it's fine if they get caught up with it, as so long as you are aware and as so long as the fans are making him aware and his colleagues are making him aware that this is a problem to Ruben and you can fix this and you can work on this. He's even said that himself. He needs to learn to calm down sometimes during the games, because during the games sometimes he gets so caught up in it. He said that himself. So for me personally, saying that is nothing wrong, but it's the fact. He has to do a bit better in order for United to keep progressing. Now is the time for calm. Now is the time to be together. Now is the time to back the club and back each other. That there's a possibility for better to be done. United was somewhat the better team versus Man City. The score may not say that, but United were a bit more dominant. Maybe the statistics show that United was dominant, but the eye test as well could show you that United progressively could have done better. The problem is, in small parts of the game, small moments of the game, Manchester City was a lot more dominant. And Manchester City have a clinical striker in Haaland that if he has 3 chances, I've said this, the guy will score 5 goals. Haaland is dangerous. He needs 3 chances and he will score 5 goals. That's how serious of a striker that guy is. But yes, people, this has been the Big Game Theory. As you know, it's the show where we always bring you the best game for the week. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to it. Please keep hitting the bell for notifications so we can continuously bring you great content going forward. Have a good time, my people. Look out for the next Big Game Theory next week. Stay sexy and ciao.